It is June 1st, 2025, and the invasion of the tech vampires is in full swing. I am just so out of it. It is our last official Sunday episode. Can't even think straight. It's crazy. I am Shane Cashman, your host. This is Inverted World Live. This is episode 50.
Woohoo!
50. We did 50 episodes.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for sticking around and tuning in and messaging us and calling in. Thank you to all the guests. It's been a pretty wild year.
It's been a crazy year, but so much fun in the coffin.
Yeah, on top of the hellmouth.
On top of the hellmouth.
I'm trying to think about the tech vampire invasion. Totally just spacing out on protocols.
Yeah.
This is your last episode officially.
It is.
But you'll
Not
be back.
by choice.
You'll be back. You'll be
what
back
it is.
at some point, I hope.
I'll pop in once in a while.
Yeah.
I will leave Brandon from his duties. Brandon is here with us tonight.
Let's get Brandon on the screen there. What's up,
What's
sir?
up, guys? How you guys doing? Brandon Miner. Happy to be here. Let's get weird.
I love the episode we did. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
And
It was
we're
a great
gonna
time.
dip back into a lot of that today.
Awesome.
Because there's a lot of stuff in the news that I want to like unspool. But Brandon, thank you for taking over. And I'm stoked for what we're doing because starting tomorrow, tomorrow's Monday, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's Monday. What day is it? Where are we?
We start going live at 10 o'clock at night. I will be on IRL. I will leave a few minutes early. I will run over here. I will sit in this chair. Brandon's going to be here. And we're just going to go crazy.
No pressure, Brandon.
Yeah.
This is, hard shoes to fill over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Alex has been the best. It's been 4 years.
Yeah, we've been working on Inverted World for 4 years.
Yep. Very first time I remember getting a phone call being like, hey, Alex is going to be your producer. Your husband, Chris, has been my editor. Mm-hmm. And so it was awesome working with both of you.
Yeah.
Through 2 books that we serialized on YouTube. At first, it was just articles. And then we turned those into books. And then there was a first iteration of this show, which took place in the OG, not the OG, but like the second OG IRL studio back when we were in Maryland. And you were a guest on that show.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
That's
that was Castle, right?
That was Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Pop culture's in that studio now. So before there was a pop culture crisis, there was a short-lived Inverted World pre-recorded season where I had a guest on each week to discuss something that was kind of thematically connected to whatever episode we put out that week.
That's right. And I was pregnant, and now I have a 3-year-old that I was pregnant with.
That's crazy.
Who has nightmares at night because he thinks that there's ghosts and monsters. And I'm like,
Get him on the show.
I know.
Yeah, give him a phone. Let's get a call in. Come on.
I asked him, I was like, what do ghosts look like to you? He's like, a white sheet and black eyes. I'm like, oh God, what am I letting you watch?
Classic ghosts.
Classic.
Yeah. My kids, I don't talk about all this stuff too much with them. But it's like through osmosis, it's just seeped into their psyche.
Yeah.
So, they're obsessed with aliens and vampires and monsters.
I feel like some of that stuff might actually be hereditary too. No,
I do think so. Yeah.
just how did you know about this?
It's like the trauma. Like kids are born with trauma.
Yeah.
They're born with whatever weirdo thing.
I inherited all of my grandfather's weird quirks, and all the dark humor, all his strange stuff that he experienced as a hearse driver, and I just got it by osmosis. I inherited it.
He was a hearse driver.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely catching some of that.
It was a good job.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He was a tall guy, and a hearse had really good leg room. So he was always stoked on the hearse having just nice leg room, He was a cop in the city in the 70s, New York City. And when he retired, he went down and was doing security gigs just to make some extra money in Florida. And
been there, done that.
Fell asleep on the job. Like the Epstein guards, mind you, because I guess everyone just falls asleep on the job. And one of his old buddies from the force found him and woke him up and said, hey, I got a better job for you. You can drive a hearse. And he did that for 15 years.
What if he fell asleep on that job?
By the end, he might have, honestly.
I mean, you only have to worry about accidentally killing yourself, right?
Right.
Well, it's
double kill.
It's like 6 Feet Under.
Yeah.
Ever watch that show?
I never watched it. No.
He drives
That
a hearse
show was
and
intense.
He dies driving the hearse.
That
I
was a
think that's
crazy.
Yeah.
I think you might be right.
Oh,
It's
whoa.
been a
The
while
father.
since I've seen that show, but I remember watching that show and it was just so creepy.
Interesting.
Like, and all the PTSD that surrounds a family running a funeral home. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
living above, you know, and working down below, and just man.
Funeral homes are wild. He worked in Florida, in South Florida, so there's just old people everywhere. So it's like Chick-fil-A, but for
Yeah,
funeral
just
homes.
retirement fillet.
Just
Yeah.
pumping them out, just pumping them out. And on top of that, you know, the sea level, like you're right there. So anytime there's a flood, and the caskets, people who were buried pre-concrete, like being put in concrete in the ground, they'd float up to the top.
Yeah, which is why
that
they
was a
do a
job.
lot of that, like tomb stuff now. Is I remember Katrina, actually, Louisiana had that same issue where there were just bodies floating down the street.
Yep, happened in Florida a lot too. And he talked about people having to gather the bones and the remains. Good stories, you know, because a lot of the jobs he was doing was the transport gigs where someone found new money. They came into money wanting to give the dead relative a better like grave, so they would have to go dig it up,
Exhume them and
bring them to the new place, put them in the these giant mausoleums, or if they were really rich, like a nice personal mausoleum. But in Florida, in this area, most of the mausoleums just look like giant ice trays.
yeah.
There's like 50 people, and you just slide them right in.
I've always wanted a little crypt of my own. I think it'd be awesome.
I think so. I do too. I do too.
Catch some sleep.
Well, you fit right on in the show because welcome to our mausoleum.
Hey.
Yeah, for real. Someone was saying that audio was a little low, so I boosted us up.
Okay,
Is
how's that?
Headphones okay for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
You're
guys sound good.
Yeah. Do we sound better? Are they answering? Can you hear us?
The audio has been fine for me. So you know, this is what happens. Like some people, we read these comments all the time. It's like the audio is too loud, the audio is too soft, it's too dark in the room, it's not dark enough. Like, you know, we're trying to satisfy everybody here.
I'm working on it. Yeah. Eventually, I'll just hold a spotlight under my face, like our flashlight, to tell ghost stories.
Oh, yeah, with
like
the
a camera.
shadows.
Yeah.
It'll just be me. I'll
Yeah.
just come in.
I did like the comment recently where someone was like, "I can't hear him very well, but I also have hearing problems."
Yeah, that's.
I was like, "But I also do speak softly." I think
Actually,
it's bad.
the weird little candle thing here would be really cool. We just kill the lights in the room and you just stand there with the candle.
Yeah. We at some point we were talking about that, but
Yeah.
it did not happen. But it could still happen.
This room is so sensitive. We're like, don't touch nothing.
I think
keep it as
I
it is.
I know I speak softly as well, and I think like I'm thinking about this. Why? I don't know why, but I am assuming it's 10 years of singing in a death metal band
Maybe.
has done something to my voice. There's other guys out there. There's like Corpse Grinder. What is he? 6 Feet Under or Cannibal Corpse? I always forget. His voice seems fine, so I just wasn't doing it right, I guess.
Well, you're just inconsistent a little bit with the mic.
Yeah, maybe I should just start screaming.
Just stay still.
Just
don't
bring
move.
back the screaming.
Yeah.
So all right, we opened
There
up.
might be some screaming tonight.
You want to do some screaming?
Yeah.
So I opened up the show talking about the tech vampires. I've been on this for a minute. I love talking about the tech vampires because they're taking over, and they're everywhere. And the other day, I think it was Friday, Palantir was in the news because there was a possible real story. There's a lot of conflict on whether or not this is real or not. You want to pull up that New York Times story or whatever,
Yeah.
wherever we saw it, about Palantir and the White House, which shouldn't surprise anyone who's been paying attention. So I'm going to attempt to read this with my squinty old man eyes. Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans. So this is in the New York Times, right?
This is.
Is this where we're
I
at?
think it's in New York. Yeah, it's in New York.
So we got to read this with a grain of salt. This is the New York Times. They have a long history of lying. A lot. They've won Pulitzers for lying. One of their reporters went to Russia or Soviet Union and said there was no famine. No one was starving when Stalin was over there. That was a lie, and he won a Pulitzer for it anyway. So I just say that to know when we're reading the New York Times, they tend to be fake and they tend to be liars. But the reason I was thinking there's probably a modicum of truth to this is just knowing the history of Palantir and Trump and the surveillance state that Palantir has been helping to create since the Patriot Act, since around, I believe, 2003. So let's read a little bit of this article, see what these guys are saying. In March, President Trump signed an executive order calling for the federal government to share data across agencies. raising questions over whether he might compile a master list of personal information on Americans that could give him untold surveillance power. Okay, that does sound a little scary. I also understand the benefits of streamlining this across agencies for a lot of reasons. When it comes to, people will say to help with fraud, to help with the immigration issues, which Palantir has done a lot of. But I'll continue. Mr. Trump has not. Why did they not say president? I guess maybe because they said it in the first paragraph anyway. Mr. Trump has not publicly talked about the effort since, but behind the scenes, officials have quietly put technological building blocks into place to enable his plan. In particular, they have turned to one company, Palantir, the data analysis and technology firm, headed by vampires. It does not say that. I included that. The Trump administration has expanded Palantir's work across the federal government in recent months. The company has received more than $113 million in federal government spending since Mr. Trump took office, according to public records, including additional funds from existing contracts, as well as new contracts with the Department of Homeland Security and the Pentagon. This does not include a $795 million contract that the Department of Defense awarded the company last week, which has not been spent. Representatives of Palantir are also speaking to at least two other agencies, the Social Security Administration and the Internal Revenue Service, my favorite of all of them, about buying its technology, according to its 6 government officials and Palantir employees with knowledge of the discussions. And of course, take this with a grain of salt. Nothing I've seen here is like totally confirmed. I haven't seen Palantir confirm this. I haven't seen Trump talk about this.
So where does New York Times get this?
So where does New York Times get this from? This is great. And they're probably also trying to like sow discord amongst the MAGA people who do care about things like the surveillance state. And amongst the left who all of a sudden cares about the surveillance state, although both sides have been in love with it for quite some time. But the truth is, this has been underway for decades. Palantir, like I said, has been working hand in hand with the Patriot Act since 2003. As a data analysis firm, they've been using their AI, their data analyzing to scrape through everyone's data. And that has built into 2017, I believe it was, when they took over Project Maven. Maybe we should pull up Project Maven while I'm talking, sure. MAVEN, which was a major defense contract. So it's like, this is nothing new. It's why I'm not surprised that this might be real is because Palantir has been making a ton of money from the government and the DOD for 20 years. Do you see Project Maven?
Well, do you want the Wikipedia?
Let's see what Wikipedia says. Because I'm sure there's a bunch of different things, and Wikipedia will be a funny little source to use. Officially, what is this? Algorithmic Warfare Cross-Functional Team is a Pentagon project involving using machine learning and data fusion to process data from many sources, identify potential targets, display information through its interface, and transmit human decisions to weapon systems, among other functions. So they've been deeply embedded with the government for a long time, which is why when I saw the Palantir story that came out on Friday, I was not surprised. This is what they do. They are the military-industrial complex. They are a part of the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been using them for a very long time. So this is the logical next step of a place like Palantir, which is just one of many of these places doing this sorts of thing with the government, which I find to be reprehensible. You know, I know there's short-term benefits to a lot of this stuff, and we'll get into that as I go on. But the risks that are going to come through this, like the totally ballooning the surveillance state, is terrifying. And it should terrify you too. And on top of all that, Palantir is the CIA. When Palantir needed funding when they started, the CIA's venture capitalist firm, In-Q-Tel, that's what funded Palantir. So they are the CIA. They are the government. They are the military-industrial complex. And that this is just the next step in what they're doing. So I don't know yet if this story is confirmed, but it feels like what's probably going to be happening if it hasn't happened already. And I'm not going to read more of that New York Times article, but I do know the Biden administration gave a ton of money to Palantir. They've worked with every administration. Allegedly, they worked with the Obama administration to find Osama bin Laden. You know, who knows? They're all pretty glib about that being a reality or not. So I want to get into that and then kind of give a broader context. Because I feel like I talk about Palantir or Teal or my concerns with Elon and the technocrats a lot. And I just figured, why not on our 50th episode, give a little more context and just show you where I'm coming from. And then if you guys disagree or agree, you got other things you want to share, send us stuff in the chat and we'll get to them afterwards. So why do I call them a tech vampire? Because they're a monster. These people are monsters, and they pretend to be human, and they feed off of you. They feed off of your livelihood. They feed off of your fear. They feed off of your dreams. They feed off of your data. Data to them is the new gold. This is the gold rush, but data is the thing they're after. That is everything to them. Their entire business model, Palantir, but all these places that we're going to get into need your data. They feed off your data. So they are literally latching onto you with their digital fangs and sucking you dry. And I should say, Peter Thiel, the CEO, the guy who started Palantir, is probably the most vampiric of them all because he does inject, or he did, young men's blood into his body to stay alive for
And
longer.
he looks like he does it too.
He sweats blood, Brandon.
Well,
Like when you look at his face,
skin.
he's like, he's got like those crazy eyes, like he's like, yeah, you're next,
There's
like
something wrong with that man. And it that was so it was the company was called Ambrosia, which means the food of the gods, the fruit of the gods. And it was based off of, I wrote down here somewhere, parabiosis studies, which is when they used to I don't know, they probably still do. Scientists would study parabiosis by sewing an old dying mouse to a young mouse. And they would observe the old mouse getting better. I don't want to say younger, but better. The weird thing was the young mice would age rapidly all of a sudden. And allegedly Ambrosia was using that study, which happened at Stanford in the early 2000s. One of the places they started doing it was at Stanford, which also happens to be where Peter Thiel went to college. So that was $8,000 for a bag of blood from a young man between the ages of 16 and 25.
That mouse thing is the law of equivalent exchange.
Tell us about it.
Basically, it's the idea basically that in order to take something, you have to give something of equal or lesser value, or whatever. But the exchange has to take place. So it's almost like, karmatically, like, I trip you and you fall down the stairs. Oh, hey, but then, depending on how the universe works or the energies work, at some point in the next, X amount of time, you find yourself to suffer a similar injury. And somebody trips you down the stairs and you're like, what the hell? Did I deserve that? And it's the universe taking its half back from what you took.
100%. But and there's people that like that idea because in the short term, they can benefit from it.
Yeah.
Although their short term is different because I call them vampires, not just because they're using their fangs to eat our data and to eat us alive, but because they're transhumanists and they want to live forever. And injecting blood into your body is a transhumanist idea of wanting to defeat God's
It's
idea.
also a vampiric idea.
That is literally vampiric. I could go down, other transhumanists who have other ideas. Like last time you were on talking about Ray Kurzweil a little bit, who has another idea of being immortal by uploading his consciousness. Whatever that means, what is it? I don't want to sound too Jordan Peterson. What do you mean by consciousness? But he has this idea of being able to basically surf amongst servers with his so-called consciousness to live forever. There's other ideas like cryogenically freezing yourself and other things. But for Thiel, he is the closest to a vampire on this one. But like Alex Karp, who's also was the CEO of Palantir, he's a vampire. Elon Musk is a vampire. Mark Andreessen is a vampire. Reid Hoffman's a vampire. Sam Altman is certainly a vampire. Larry Ellison, a vampire. But the thing that makes him a little different than the vampires, than vampire mythology, is that vampires typically had to get permission to get into your house. You had to knock, and be invited in.
Yeah, you have to be invited in.
These people built a way to get right into your entire life and also are working on a way to get into your brain constantly. I'm not just talking about Neuralink, which we'll talk about too.
But also, we are willing to let them in.
Oh yeah, we've invited it.
So we have invited it.
We have invited it. Yep, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
that's that little disclaimer that you click before you go into the website.
True.
That
Yeah.
just says, "Hey, do you care if we share your
Exactly.
immediate privacy information with
Right.
third party?" And
Yep.
it's just asterisk in general, third
Right.
party. It could be anybody.
Well, it's
And
all
it is.
technology. It's your phones. It's like your Amazon thingy mabob that you talk to.
Alexa.
Alexa.
Yep. And it's unavoidable, unfortunately. So like, I don't think there's anything we could do to stop it unless we want to reject it. I'll get into that in a little bit, but like, in what you're saying, with giving up, you're sacrificing your data when you click on, you're agreeing to use a social media platform. We'll use social media platform. There was a recent Facebook Meta whistleblower who said something like, and we might have discussed this, Brandon, when you were on last time too. Basically, they'll target people, and they'll target them by like, okay, this young girl will say, 17-year-old girl, put up a selfie on Facebook and then deleted it. And so their AI, who's constantly scouring everything on their platform, says, oh, she must be depressed because she didn't like the way it looked or something. So then they immediately, this is what the whistleblower said when she testified this early April. They send it right to the advertisers and say, hey, this girl's depressed. You should sell something to her because when you're depressed, you buy things. Mm-hmm. And that's what they were doing, which that's just one little
pharmaceutical ads for depression
exactly.
medication.
Yep. And they'll do it. They'll study your entire feed, your algorithm, what you're looking at, and they will personalize everything to that. People have been joking about that for a long time. It's like when we found out we were having a kid, like literally the moment Nancy told me she was pregnant with our first, it's like 9 years ago, I suddenly got ads online for diapers, and a crib. Mm-hmm. I never looked at that before, ever. So there's that. And a Technocracy, and I'm looking down at some notes as I'm going all over the place, and I figured I'm gonna write down some notes on the way here. I'm like driving and like writing over here. I don't recommend it, but I'm like, I gotta have something to keep me focused. A Technocracy, that is a government or control of society or industry by an elite of technical experts. That might sound nice, but I'll get into my ideas with that in just a sec as well. So basically, the vampire Technocracy is these vampires, the Teals, the Musks, the Ellisons, the Altmans, building up this society where they've basically turned it into a technocracy. But I think it might already be a technocracy. I think we're just now seeing it become very unavoidable. It's very in the open. And these people are like hell-bent on creating a digital utopia through all their private cities, through this idea of living forever, through you could and I understand those short-term benefits of like, hey, you could put this thing in your brain, and for like, how do you feel bad about giving a blind person sight? It's amazing.
Well, that's like how Palantir, if you look it up, they're examples of use that are put out there.
Yep.
Are based publicly for public opinion to be generally like, okay, because like, listen to this. It's like the product, and this is examples of use for Palantir. Products have been used to uncover human trafficking rings, find exploited children, and assist in financial crime investigations. Now, on the surface, it sounds like a banana split.
Right.
It's a sundae with sprinkles on top. That's
Totally.
fantastic. No, you know what? I like this. That's good. That's exactly what I want. I want them to find child trafficking rings and things like that.
Yep.
But they're not going to put up there all of the other sides of that coin.
Right. No,
Like-
because you are just a product to them now. And like, yeah, those things are great. And I also want to break up all the trafficking. I want to return all the kids that have been missing, stolen from their families. But I think I don't even think it's that far into the future. Not that far into the future. This kind of thing turns into the social credit system that China has, right? Where they're reading your mind with like the thing Meta is building to translate your thoughts into images. They want to be able to have you on your best behavior, like we saw Larry Ellison say, who's from Oracle. But I also want to say real quick, there's a lot of like alarmism. I'm an alarmist when it comes to this stuff. I'm constantly being like, this is bad. The future is going to be bad. And I could be totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm wrong. And you know, sometimes I hear myself say, I'm like, do I sound like the climate alarmist? Do I sound like someone who's worried about the poles shifting? Do I sound like AOC worried about cow farts? I do worry about that sometimes. Like
Cow farts?
Yeah, no, I don't worry about cow farts. I do worry about sounding like AOC, sounding like a
Cow farts
alarmist.
keep Shane up at night. It's the methane. It doesn't, you know.
I'm on the save the cows team, man. I gotta keep those cows safe. But like with the AI stuff and these guys, we are seeing in real time how fast AI is changing. It's rapidly changing. The people behind the scenes, or some of them behind the scenes, some of them are public facing, are worried about it. And it's not like thinking about the ozone layer. We're like, oh, wow, there's a hole in the ozone I should worry about. That's more abstract. Like we're looking at people who I don't think have ethics building death machines.
Yeah.
And I really hope I'm wrong, because someone would say, well, the AI and all this stuff is a tool. Sure. And it should be objective. Totally. But it's being built by super flawed, very subjective people who are, I think, super dangerous to society, to humanity. They're anti-human. They're anti-God. They want to build gods. They say these things. You know, Elon has said he used to say we're summoning the digital demon. That has since changed to summoning the digital God. I just...
God sounds nicer than demon.
Right. That's part of the rebrand.
Because God offers forgiveness.
Right.
You know, but demons don't. Demons are here to torment you. We don't want to sound like demons.
No.
We want to sound like God.
I think that's all part of the rebrand.
It is.
Kind of like how the UAPs have been rebranded. UFOs to UAP. It's been sanitized for mass acceptance.
Yeah, we have to wash off the last 50 years
Yep.
of societal debris
that's
that
good.
has
That's
covered
good.
up.
50?
Yep.
Like, seriously, it makes total sense. The first thing you want to do when you're trying to recover as like a failed business or something is rebrand,
Yep.
put out a new set of things, show that you have changed as a company, and you are ready to rejoin society as this new company that's ready to serve you, and we're
Right.
going to be better this time.
Because a lot of these places were the ones behind a lot of the most dystopian measures of COVID. Like Palantir is one of them. You know, a lot of these, you know, all of a sudden Zuckerberg's rebranded into like a guy who, well, I think we talked about that when he was surfing. Well, he wasn't really surfing. He had I forget the name for that, like fake motorized surfboard he's on with the American flag, looking like he's all cool now with his new haircut and gold chain.
Oh, man.
Like, this guy was censoring everybody off their platform. People lost a lot of money by being let off, and like they destroyed all dissenting opinions during one of the worst times in recent history. And now here we are with these people. They're a part of this administration, which I voted for because I agree with most of them, except for this. This is bad. And like a lot of these people from the AI world, a lot of these tech vampires are telling all of us that this is like the space race. And I think that's true. I think this is a lot like the space race. We are in a race with other countries to develop the best AI at an insanely quick clip. But I actually think this is worse than a space race. You have to believe in space, first of all, to want to buy into that. But I digress.
Didn't Katy Perry prove it?
Dude,
Are you not satisfied?
She went it was a glorified airplane. It was a glorified airplane, and it was like pre-filmed. And she came back. She might not even have survived because whatever Katy Perry came back as, that's not the same person. We've seen her cloned a few times at this point.
Yeah.
You remember the eye thing? When her
Eye twitched.
And she's like touching like the secret button underneath her.
It was Tom Cruise readjusting his face mask.
Well, and she came back and started hanging out with the Kardashians all of a sudden, and like you've seen Kris Jenner recently, so she looks terrifying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They're all scary. They're all transhumanists.
Drinking the blood for sure. Yeah.
These are all transhumanists. They want to live forever. And I get that idea. Death is crazy and scary. But I'm going to take it back real quick for some context. We're going to time travel back to Canada in the 1930s. You guys ever hear of Joshua Haldeman?
No.
Joshua Norman Haldeman. He was a famous chiropractor in Canada and written about extensively. And don't give anything away if you look him up yet.
Okay.
People listening probably already know. I heard her clicking away over here.
Well, I was like, if there's an image or an article.
So he was a famous chiropractor, and the Great Depression affected everybody, obviously. And people were like, the way we live in this society is not working out for us. So he became enamored with the idea of the technocracy, which was an idea born out of the Great Depression, I think popularized by a guy named Howard Scott. And Haldeman started to look up to Scott. And in Canada, Haldeman wanted to do his own technocracy. He joined the Technocracy Inc. party, which I believe was eventually outlawed in Canada. So they're trying to install a government of so-called experts to govern everything, which I understand that, especially after coming out of such a mutilated society of the Great Depression. Haldeman would eventually become obsessed with finding the lost city of Kalahari, which is in Africa, which is like, one of these ancient cities that allegedly had like some treasure hidden beneath it. But he's an interesting dude. And there's some things he said, although I don't agree with the technocracy thing. There's some things he said that I did agree with. He self-published a book sometime in the 60s. I'm going to read some from it now. It was from An Invisible Government. Pretty cool title, actually. I'm sorry, the book title was International Conspiracy in Health. And he talked about the invisible government, which he was against fluoridation in water, mandatory milk pasteurization, and mass vaccination programs. I'm for that. Let's get rid of those things. So totally understand that. So the idea to Canadians, probably like most things to Canadians, became scary. And they were like, we got to outlaw Technocracy Inc. And he had years of trying to work it out, trying to make technocracy happen, trying to do politics, didn't work out. And the story's murky about whether he was chased out of Canada or he left because it wasn't working out. But, he eventually had to leave. But he was obsessed with this idea of scientific management, efficiency, which I understand. Scientific management is good to know, I think, just because it dates back to the Industrial Revolution, which ties so much into what we're talking about today. It was made by Frederick Taylor. It's also called Taylorism, and it's basically about turning humans into machines. How can we make the factories the most efficient? So a good idea, but like the long-term risks, it ends up dehumanizing everyone and turning everyone into just a cog in the machine. People who ended up really liking Taylorism and scientific management were Lenin and Mao. They eventually mutated them into their own versions of scientific management. Since there was a little bit of capitalism still in the idea of Taylorism, Mao and Lenin abandoned it or changed it to fit their needs. But here's a good example of how scientific management turned on China during the Cultural Revolution with the Four Pests campaign. They have experts in charge, experts, I'm putting in quotes for those listening. And they were like, okay, we got to get rid of 4 pests because they're destroying everything. And Mao is like, the sparrow reminds me of capitalism. So let's kill every sparrow. Every sparrow's got to go. And little kids are out just killing birds. They didn't understand that would cause a chain reaction of the birds would eat the insects that would eat the crops. So once you get rid of the birds, the insects take over and destroy the crops, which had a lot to do with the huge famine that took place during the Cultural Revolution.
Lord have mercy. Isn't this common sense?
Well,
that's the law of ecosystems.
Yeah, you're an expert.
If you mess with one thing in an ecosystem, it disrupts the balance.
And also, I should say, some people could say that FDR adopted scientific management with the New Deal because it was like widespread micromanagement to help fix the economy, which didn't really work out because it took World War II.
Well, no, and they were getting people in on this too with their own ideas too, and it was mainly that 1% that was back then, like was it Henry Ford that implemented the 8-hour a day, 40-hour work week.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
for pumping out manufactured vehicles and things like that because they wanted to get it booming. So thank you, Henry Ford, for making us all work ourselves to death.
And it's all connected to this idea of scientific management, and you're being micromanaged to death. You can go look up all the lawsuits that happened between agriculture and FDR and how insane some of their rules were, and these so-called experts trying to tell farmers what prices things should be. And it was just destructive to all these people. And also, I should say, I think part of the technocracy we live in today was born during FDR, because you might have heard of something like the business plot, which was a conspiracy of these mega corporations like JP Morgan, that were allegedly working behind the scenes to do a coup on FDR and overthrow him and have the corporations run everything. Smedley Butler was that whistleblower whom they had allegedly were trying to pay off to run this. Smedley Butler had 2 Purple Hearts, I believe, like a super decorated soldier. He went to war with Teddy Roosevelt. So it's like crazy to think this guy's life. Like with Teddy, he did crazy stuff for Woodrow Wilson, I believe in Haiti. Was all over the place battling. Decorated soldier, gung-ho on it. But then he became disillusioned with the war racket. I believe the book he wrote was called War is a Racket. I could be a little wrong with the title. I even though he blew the whistle on that stuff happening, nothing ever happened. No one got in trouble. And the rumors are that the corporations kind of did a backroom deal with FDR. He was in power for quite some time. And those companies made a lot of money on war, as companies do, like Palantir, and all these other ones we're going to go through. So I think that's been going on. I think that's been happening ever since. You see what happened with Biden. You see what happened with this whole conspiracy to keep him to the illusion of Biden was like a person and he was alive. Whereas like all these different people were around him, the auto pen, people, he was a puppet for corporations, for other people behind the scenes. I think this has been going on since FDR. That's my opinion when this probably started. So I'll take it back to Joshua Haldeman. Okay. He went to Africa to look for the lost city of Kalahari. I don't think anyone's ever found it, but and I believe he died looking for it. He ended up building his own planes, like really smart, interesting dude. And his plane crashed. And when his plane crashed, his grandson was 3. His grandson was Elon Musk. I think that's an interesting connection between Technocracy and Elon. It's a very short, very small distance between the idea of Technocracy, and they share a lot in common. Because I believe May Musk's dad was Josh Haldeman. And we can get into the whole other stuff about Elon. Well, I won't do it yet, but that is very odd to me that a guy who believes in the experts and elites taking over had a grandfather who was so deeply embedded in that world of Technocracy. And I am so against Technocracy, and I keep seeing it pop up. So that's why when I saw the Palantir story, I'm like, this is the next phase of all that.
That's funny because that goes back to that hereditary thing that we were talking about at the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
That's like, hey, some of this stuff just gets passed down.
It's in you. It's in you. And like, look, Elon's also an adventurer. He also wants to go to, like, Mars is his lost city of Kalahari, And I get it. Like, I don't want to stifle innovation. I love innovation. I love progress in the good sense of the word, not the way it's been mutilated by the left. But like, I love this stuff. Look what we're doing right now. I'm surrounded by this stuff. It's amazing that we can talk to you guys from all over the world, and we can be in here and broadcast this. It's amazing. But again, it's the risks down the road that are going to keep scratching away at what it means to be a human.
So do you think that these people are necessary for the improvement of society?
I mean, it's always going to be pros and cons. Because, I'm not expecting anyone to be perfect, right? We're all super flawed.
No, it's the exact opposite. Like, we actually need some people to be completely out of their minds to look at the things outside of the box and to try to attain reach to the things that no one else has thought of. Otherwise, how else do we get there?
And I agree with that typically, like, especially with art and with inventing certain things. But when it comes to like the way they want to oversee your life is when I start to get really like, this is not good, right? Because hopefully there's a pushback that's going to happen soon of like, we don't want this. I don't know if it's too late.
And honestly. That's the darker side of that two-faced scratched up coin,
Right.
Like, it's just
right.
The man was not meant to meddle and everything,
Well, yeah, I mean, we could get into Tower of Babel, which I think this is all like Babel, right, from the Bible, of like a one world government system. Everyone's like coalescing around a way to defeat God, to be God, which is what these guys are. Whether it's the transhumanist stuff or the technology stuff that's going to become a false, omniscient, lower G God. And yeah, these guys are really flawed, just like the rest of us, but they are literally in charge. They are the faces of the military industrial complex. And that is where I'm like, I will draw the line there, being like, these people, we can't be governed by these people. But that's like every president's also been a psychopath, you know? So, you know, and the PayPal Mafia would be the beginning of when these guys really started to do their thing. You guys know about PayPal Mafia? It's like Elon, Peter Thiel, I think Reid Hoffman might have been a part of that as well. They started PayPal.
It's pretty catchy.
It sounds cool.
Pretty catchy crew name.
Sounds really cool. It was, you know, whatever that was, it was a crazy idea that took off that they did together, which we all use now. And now they're a way to consolidate digital, you know, banking. And now we're at where X, you know, Twitter wants to do their own banking thing, which is, I think, what Elon wanted to call PayPal in the beginning was X. So he's had that idea for quite some time. But, oh, you know what I was looking at? I don't know if you guys saw this before, but Elon and Peter Thiel almost died in a crazy car accident too, around that time. Together. Like, I think they had a falling out, and Elon picked Thiel up, I think, in some crazy sports car. And
it wasn't a Tesla?
Pre-Tesla. Maybe that was where the idea of Tesla was born. But look, like these guys, Thiel in particular, are they're pro-monopoly, which is the other thing that scares me. These guys aren't like into like competition. They want to be a monopoly. I'm also against a monopoly. When you consolidate that much power, especially when you're working with the government, not good.
Well, and that's another thing that I do actually believe in, and my parents been saying it for a long time. Shout out. They think that it's been a goal for a lot of things to go back to like a company store setting. You know, one ring to rule them all. Right. You know, like, and if you ever seen like a terrible example, but a good example is the movie Demolition Man. If you ever seen that.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
Taco Bell is every restaurant in the future. There are no other restaurants, but
you're selling me.
But
go on.
when they go to Taco Bell for dinner that night, it is not casual dress. People are in suits. This is like the place to be. Taco Bell looks ritzy and glamorous and expensive, and it is.
Yep.
And it's just Taco Bell.
Right.
But they have taken over everything. No one is left, no mom and pop shop. Every other corporation has been beaten out to the point to where, hey, we have either bought you out now at this point with all of the money that we have and turned you into us, or we've beaten you so thoroughly into bankruptcy that you've just fallen off the face of the planet.
Right.
And we're seeing that with companies like Walmart invading small towns
everywhere
and completely killing the town itself. There's a freaking South Park episode out there about it. It's unbelievable, but it's so true.
It's like Dollar Generals out here. I don't know if you've noticed. There's a Dollar General everywhere.
Well, and it's also like with the housing, you know, developments and stuff. Like you can't buy a house, like because big companies are coming in with cash and just buying it. And
and this was accelerated during COVID. Look at how many corporations did really well, and all these mom and pop shops were shut down. Like I have a lot of friends in New York who their shops just went under. They weren't allowed to have.
There's a lot of people that believe that was part of the point.
Yeah,
I do. I'm one of them. And you said one ring to rule them all. Lord of the Rings. The connection to Palantir and Lord of the Rings. It's the seer. You want to pull that up? Actually, can we see an image of the Palantir from Lord of the Rings?
Sure.
What was it? One ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's written on Sauron's ring.
Right. And everything that, like, not everything, but I think most of the things Teal does or funds, they're Lord of the Rings adjacent. Andrewel, isn't that the sword from Lord of the Rings? It's a weapon from Lord of the Rings. Are you seeing it?
It's a weapon. I'm not sure which one, though.
It's hard to know which one's really.
But, like, it should be like a red orb.
There's that one.
I mean, that's not the one I was thinking of.
I know.
Jack Black?
Yeah. Is that Minecraft? No, I'm just kidding.
All I'm seeing is like the actual like.
The company.
Like the red or. Like,
yeah.
Okay, well,
that's
this
good.
is like a card.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, like the Palantir is the seeing crystal orb.
Yeah, the lost seeing stones.
So that's
that
literally
what
recovered. The company does.
Yeah, that's like, basically NSA.
By scraping all the data, they're able to see into
that's
everything.
the one.
They're able to see into everything. So that's interesting to me.
Sorry, I hate you.
And going back to like, I think these people really hate us. I sent you a few links. If you could, Alex, pull up the ones about the Alex Karp ones. This is the guy from Palantir with the funny hair.
Yeah.
Like, let's just listen to some of him. Let's do the other one first. That one's shorter. It should be a short one, like with a Twitter. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's listen to that. This is Alex Karp of Palantir.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain. And they're category-defining products. So when you deliver these products to the market, just honestly, people say this isn't going to exist, this isn't valuable, but then it changes the market. And then the market is the Palantir market. Now, that doesn't mean everyone in the world is going to buy our product, but it means most of the sensible people in the world are going to buy from the category we defined.
Yeah, define sensible.
You're not sensible unless you're buying from us.
So, like, what's his definition of far right? Because during the last 10 years, the left, which is what he is, was like anyone right of them was far right. So, it's like they create these systems to be manipulated by anyone who's in power to then use their definition of who their enemy is. And also, they really did help out the Pentagon with the vaccines and all that stuff, like delivering them. And then pull up the other one, because there's a few parts of that interview.
The full video?
Yeah, the full video. We'll listen to the very beginning, and I think there's another part too I want to hear. So
he looks like a lunatic too. He's got that same lunatic look, like he's been bathing in children's blood.
Right.
Yeah, and this is from 4 years ago, and I believe the date of this interview is. I'm gonna pause it really quick. Sorry. I believe this video took place on January 7th, the January 7th.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go. So I think he said some interesting stuff in the very beginning.
As in, like the day after J6.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's what I meant. Not the J7. Yeah, the day after J6. Thanks.
But that's still the J7.
Yeah.
All right. Palantir Data Integration and Analytics Software Company was tapped by the U.S. government. The company is helping track the virus. They're showing pictures of nurses twerking. There's the Pentagon for people listening. Palantir powers their Army Vantage platform, aka Military Industrial Complex. There's a quote from Karp. All right, let's hear from Alex Karp.
What happened?
Welcome to Washington Post Live. I'm David Ignatius, a columnist for The Post. This morning, we're joined by Alexander Karp, the chief executive of Palantir Technologies,
Pause it really quick.
a leading.
Like this guy needs a hairbrush.
I just find this fascinating to in terms of like what I was saying about the rebrand of these people and why they hate you. And I don't believe anything they're saying now. All they do is rebrand to survive, to keep doing this stuff. This is how he feels. Let's hear it.
Data analytics company in Silicon Valley. We're going to be talking about Palantir's role in trying to work with the terrible problem of COVID-19 and other issues involving data analytics. But Alex, first I want to ask you to begin by talking about the news that's on every viewer's mind, and that's the storming of the U.S. Capitol building yesterday. What are your own thoughts?
Well, we began to build Palantir almost 17 years ago with a focus on strengthening U.S. and Western institutions to support democracy and make all of our lives better. So by reducing terrorism and increasing civil liberties. And when I see what happened yesterday, and honestly, when I watch the inflammatory tone of some of our elected leaders that led to this, it's quite concerning, and I would say also depressing. As a citizen of the U.S., but also as someone who's been pretty actively involved in national security and some of the more important parts of protecting democracy, it severely corrodes trust in the government. It damages the view that our allies and very competent non-allies have of the promise of American democracy. And I really hope that all leaders of all parties get their act together. And there's a disobedience, a disagreement is crucial to democracy. It's what makes living in a democracy so special. But there's a line where we begin portrayals that corrode the very institutions that preserve this discourse, and that line was crossed. And those of us who've played a crucial role in the enforcement of law, especially, need to speak up. And it's also something, by the way, if there's a lot that America has to do to bolster its defenses, but if we're going to have these kind of events, it's very hard to have strong national security because the internal structures are just won't support it, and the charisma of the American project will be tarnished, and was tarnished by these events.
That's a good description of the national security cost that we paid for.
I can pause it there
what
for a sec.
happened yesterday.
He does go on to say, like, he agrees with taking Trump off of platforms, because at this point he was then suspended from all the accounts like Twitter. But he weirdly tap dances around it because he's trying to also sound like he's not one way or the other, but clearly he sees Trump as heinous at this point, and that the whole thing was like a mess. And look, J6 had its issues, but this guy has always been a leftist and a Clinton voter. So I don't trust it at all. And if you want to go to 24 minutes in, I forget what he says here, but I remember thinking something was interesting about it. Pause it real quick. That's the other thing I was going to say. National security almost never means our security, by the way. When these people talk, it always means like their security.
Yeah.
Like they never really care about us. And he'll say in other interviews, we've done this and that to help save people, things that he can't talk about. And I'm sure that might be true. But they never really care about the people. They care about maintaining power and keeping themselves safe.
Well, yeah. And I mean, when you consider like the Espionage Act and things like that, and whistleblowers and things, I mean, yeah, some of that stuff that's done is a crime, but it was because it was made a crime against the government. And it's like, they will take you to court under this act and say that you yourself are a threat to national security, even though you're a national trying to expose some of the stuff that's going on. You have now become a threat to national security for trying to do something about it.
You can only imagine what he thinks about Assange. Someone who I look up to what he did because he was looking out for the people. And there's debates on if he exposed certain things he shouldn't have, which I think have been mostly debunked, and he didn't. But this is what they mean. So let's hear what he says here.
But as importantly, to the leaders of these companies, your company is worth hundreds of billions of dollars in part because the U.S. government and the West protect your right to engage in international economic behavior. You live in a system, you drive on our streets, and we are prospering disproportionately. And there's you can't live in a country and not support it. Last not least, I would point out to that employee that, and again, without being,
pause it real quick. Sorry.
There's no.
I just want to give a little more context to this. He's talking about people. I believe it was from Google saying they don't want to work with the government in defenses when Project Maven was coming around, because Palantir eventually took Google's spot in Project Maven with developing whatever systems they were doing for the Pentagon. And there were like a lot of protests, which is why Google stepped down. It's probably more of anti-Trump than real ethics of actually worrying about what's going to happen with the AI merging with the government, which is inevitable. But yeah, that's what he's talking about, people protesting. Let's just hear the last bit.
Force someone to work against their conscience, but you can remind them, America has very serious, very, very competent adversaries that have a very different view of how the world should work and very different views of human rights and economic justice than most people in America. And we are living in a world of complexity where we may need to defend ourselves. Last not least, I would try to engage in a discourse around what do you think the consequences are going to be? Technologists realize that technology is nonlinear, so that it's much more, AI is much more like which Project Maven is working on, is much more like a nuclear bomb than a machine gun. And if one side has a gun and the other side has a nuclear bomb, the side that has a bomb will often decide that their way of seeing the world is the way of seeing the world. And I don't believe America's perfect. I've written a lot of critical things about the West and America in my former years as an academic, and I still believe some of those critical things. But I believe that a world order that is defined by, broadly speaking, Western democratic norms, the rule of law, fairness, separation of church and state, a general concept that things will be adjudicated in the court that will be followed, is a better system than a system that doesn't have those things. And a country which does not have the equivalent of software nuclear warfare because its best people won't work on it is a country that will not be able to engage in dialogue of equals on these very important issues.
It's funny to me, that's an argument I hear quite a bit about, like, well, if China's doing it, we have to do it. And I do understand that, because it goes back to the whole space race thing. It will be used against us. They're going to use it against us, this guy, Karp, but also China's going to use it against us. But another thing he says in other interviews quite a bit, he refers to China as the second mover, which means, my interpretation of what he means is, we're building everything here better when it comes to all the AI stuff, and China keeps stealing it. So they're the second mover on it and pushing that ball further down the field, which kind of undercuts his whole argument with other countries getting away with it first, because it seems, according to him, and these guys know, we're the best at it. And that could just be propaganda, and I'm sure part of it is. But this is what Silicon Valley's been pumping out. And a good example of this, and we'll lead into the next topic with Project Stargate, is right as Trump was inaugurated, China released DeepSeek, which is like, that blew everyone's mind, the new AI, right? And a lot of that was using microchips that they weren't supposed to get from America, but they got anyway. So it's like, no matter what, they're sharing information.
That was during a chip shortage too, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? I'm not sure.
You said this was,
yeah. It was during
pandemic. So yeah.
Well, it just happened. Like,
okay.
they just released it as he was inaugurated this time.
Oh, this time around. Okay, I was thinking last election. Okay.
No, yeah, right now. And they're like, we were not supposed to be exporting these to China, obviously, and they got it anyway.
It's kind of funny to think about that now. The chip shortage in general happening 4 years before the birth of and release of full AI across all platforms, along with full competitors ready to do battle. Is this the reason why said chip shortage? Yeah. Maybe they sucked all of these up just for AI and said, oh, hey, there's a chip shortage.
Just like they did for masks.
Blamed it on, Xbox and PS5 releasing consoles, and we don't have any chips, and we don't have any graphic cards and GPUs. You need all of this stuff in order to run AI correctly and effectively.
Oh, and it's getting crazier what they're building, what the supercomputers they're building to pump these out faster and stronger. It's going to get crazy. So then this is a good segue to funny. Karp wrote a book, The Technological Republic, that came out just this past February. So he'd been writing it for a little bit of time, and it's about the major marriage of government and technology. And just 1 month prior to that is when Project Stargate was announced. Day 1 or 2 of Trump's second term, which when I was like, oh, there we go. They're solidifying that marriage with Project Stargate. And I know I've talked about it a bunch, but since we're in this context now, you guys remember it was a $500 billion fund to build out AI, OpenAI, Oracle, Sam Altman, Larry Ellison. These guys are standing there with Trump on the day this is announced. And I'm sure other places are getting money from this too, like Palantir, because they just seem to get money from everything.
OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and MGX.
Right. And like Ellison, we don't have to play it, but like you guys remember, if you saw the episode, he's the guy talking about, we will make you on your best behavior. People will be on their best behavior. He said the citizen will be on their best behavior in terms of like, the surveillance state and body cameras and all this stuff. And you can go look at that. Go look up that video of Larry Ellison talking about body cameras and allegedly not watching police officers in the bathroom. He's also a weirdo who sweats blood. And then Sam Altman is there, and this is just a few months after the whistleblower death from OpenAI, which he's never really talked about, but a very interesting story. This guy from OpenAI did some interviews saying that OpenAI is just using copyrighted stuff to feed into their system, which is against the law. And he'd been collecting all these documents and did a pretty big New York Times interview. And then he died, and they said it was a suicide, but his parents think it was a murder. And the crime scene photos are insane because there's blood all over the house. There's also a part of a wig and an earpiece, and blood on the sink and all this stuff. They were told it was just I think two bullets to the head. Very weird story. I'm not saying Altman did it, but it's just a very bizarre set of circumstances for that, because what he was saying, what the whistleblower was saying, had major ramifications for the AI world.
And that ties in with anything, though. Anytime you see a death of a whistleblower that
Yep.
coincides with said whistleblowing,
Yep.
it always raises at least one eyebrow,
And,
at least on my head.
Maybe it was just a really crazy suicide. I don't know. But the photos are very, very strange. And he did that interview, and I believe it was just like 30 days later when he was found dead.
But it's like we saw this all through the pandemic, too.
Right. Oh, yeah. In China and here.
I mean, here.
Yep.
Ranging, obviously, the whole Epstein thing
Yep.
was one of them,
Yep.
curious. But in from a musical standpoint, on the other side, you got Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell.
Oh, yeah. I like this story.
And that whole thing really irked me because the way that they described Chester's death was that he was just so sad about Chris Cornell, and it was Chris Cornell's birthday.
Right.
And he just said to hell with it and hung himself too, but
Yep.
was also featured, a couple of days prior on a kind of like a podcast, type show.
Yep.
And he seemed to be in great spirits.
Right.
Did
know.
not look like a guy who was ready to, end it all on a doorknob and leave his wife and kids behind.
And his family there's like pictures of him with the family, like right before too.
But when you look into what he and Chris Cornell were going to expose and were trying to actively expose.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And I just want to say, I don't like that story. I hate that story. But I love that they were actually, it seems like they were saying stuff that wasn't being said, and then something happened.
But what were they going to expose? I don't know.
Trafficking, right?
Oh.
Yeah,
believe it's
pertaining to
child-
children
yeah.
too.
It's the same thing with Anne Heche, right? And Ellen DeGeneres and all that.
That Anne Heche, do you remember the Anne Heche death video?
Yeah, that was
when
crazy.
When they're carrying her out in the gurney, and she's
Yeah.
covered in white,
Yeah.
and then all like a hand, like she stands
she
up or
like
something, sits up.
She pops up and then they put her.
I don't
back
think
down.
I've ever seen this.
Can you pull
Really?
it up? Can you
Oh
pull
my
it up?
God.
This
Okay,
this is a good little tangent. We do have a caller tonight, so we're gonna get to them a little
We'll
later.
get to
I'm
you,
sorry
caller.
if you're listening. I have a few more things I got to go through, but we should watch Anne Heche, 'cause this thing is insane. Watch they scrubbed it from the internet.
Well, TMZ maybe has it here. Let's see if this.
Of course,
Yeah.
Good old trusty.
it's a super
Is this
weird
it?
video.
Oh God. Well, we got to get through the Kardashian advertisement first. Right?
Of course,
Will it let me? I don't even know.
of course. Unhinged, unmissable. The Kardashians. They finally reveal that
Okay,
they're
right.
lizards.
Is
Okay,
this
here we
it?
go. Yeah, this is
This is
it.
it, right?
Uh-huh.
How are they gonna show it?
Person rescued.
It says person rescue after constant. I think this is it. Is there no audio?
What?
Right, there was like a fire. Okay, car slams in the. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, go forward. Is there? There it is.
There she is.
What?
Whoa, let's pack it up.
Whoa.
Wasn't the story that they thought she was dead when this was happening?
No, she's dead. They're saying that she was
because her face
dead.
is covered.
Yeah,
Look at that,
she
dude.
just
Look at
peeled
that.
out of the body bag.
This person just peels out of the body bag. Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that crazy?
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, super weird, dude.
I hate to laugh, but yeah, I mean,
It's just so disturbing.
Okay, that is a person who looks drugged
yeah.
or
Well, and I guess-
inebriated in some degree, and it doesn't look like it was from the car crash. That was like, hey, get me the hell out of here.
Yep.
Wow.
It's really weird.
Well, yeah, and the conspiracy is that because Anne Heche was gonna put out some information about Ellen DeGeneres and the trafficking and stuff.
I forget the
too.
exact story.
Was there backstory to why she crashed the car into the house in the first place?
Not that I remember.
No, yeah.
No,
there-
but why
There's-
would
there's-
there be?
I know there's some real deep dives that I should watch at some point.
Oh my
Uh-oh.
God, sorry.
Holy moly.
That was awesome,
here.
actually. That was completely called for.
They're here. Yeah.
Bomb drop.
They're here.
Dude, I'm scared
TMZ's
right
here. Oh, man. Okay, so yeah, one little offshoot of the Project Stargate thing, and just, OpenAI is getting a lot of infrastructure from that bill, from that funding. They're building all these data centers and all this stuff, to just build out the technocracy, the techno state. But I always found it funny. By always, I mean since January, that this sounds like Operation Stargate. In Operation Stargate, we've talked about on the show a few times, that was psychic experiments, psychic driving, telepathy stuff. How do we do mind, magic? Which does, in my mind, connect to Project Stargate, because this technology does lead to things that will give you like false superhuman abilities, like the Neuralink. And I believe Neuralink is trying to trademark the word telepathy as we speak. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I'm just looking through my notes. I did have this one note. We don't have to pull it up, but it's one of my favorite things from David Bowie in 1999 when he's asked about the internet. He says it's an alien life form. I think about that all the time when I'm thinking about this stuff. He said, I don't think we've seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying. That was in 99. I always love that quote. But yeah, I think we actually are building the alien invasion as we speak. So when I say we live in a technocracy, a good example of that would be COVID, and Fauci's like a great example of one of these so-called experts. Trust the science is a great slogan for a technocracy. Someone saying I am the science is a great example of a technocrat.
So Stargate was originally happening back in the 90s.
Was it? I thought it was earlier, but probably.
Well, it was.
I don't think it stopped.
According to the internet, it was shut down in 95.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know when it was actually started up, but the CIA report had concluded that there was no useful intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference now?
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence.
Exactly. They've built it.
So now this program is good because it can think for itself.
There is 100% a chance. I feel in my bones they named it that because it's not a rebrand, it's a continuation, right? They're just picking back up.
They didn't
figured a
cancel
way.
it. They paused it and they tossed the file and they said, let's revisit this later when we've got some actionable intelligence.
Just like MK Ultra never stopped. These things never stop. Like DARPA just recently announced pre-crime, which is a lot like what I was saying last time you guys were both here, about the homicide prediction unit in the UK.
That's not
Which uses something like Palantir and probably they actually is Palantir or Foundry. They scrape all your data. They have a whole identity that they've compiled of you from your internet history, your life in the real world, and they'll say this person's most likely in the UK. They're saying this person is most likely to commit a homicide. What DARPA is saying is it plans to launch a pre-crime program to deter money laundering before it happens. But it never, like you were saying earlier with the trafficking stuff, it never stops there. This is the first steps of the social credit score when they're going to be like, yeah, well, now you can't, use your money. You're locked out, because it used to be just locked out of your Twitter account. Now you're locked out of your money. You're locked out of your card. We saw that happen in China during COVID when people weren't obeying the masks and stuff.
Someone in the chat was saying earlier about the social security cards being digital now too.
Social security cards.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. Well, the real ID is happening.
And the real IDs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is all part of it. Again, for the people who are hitting me up on Twitter saying this is what they voted for, or this has always been happening, that's a cope. Mm-hmm. This is not what I voted for. I thought we were going to do a lot worse to these institutions and not bolster them to create a dystopia. I did always know these people were involved, and it seemed inevitable to me. But if you didn't like the vaccine passports, then you shouldn't like this. This is the next part of that. This is what these people do. This is what Palantir does. This is what they're all going to coalesce to do this stuff. The facial recognition, social credit score, their death drones. You will be at home, plugged into your little machine in your fantasy world while The whole world outside is a dystopian mess. And right now, as we speak, I believe Russia is burning because Ukraine hit them with all those drones. Who's helped with all those drones? Literally Palantir. So like people who are into Palantir, you are into the military industrial complex. Stop defending them to me. You are literally profiting off them murdering the world. And we are next. And that if that sounds ridiculous, that is what AI Lavender is doing right now in Gaza in terms of AI going after people. There's a 10% error rate. I bet it's more, where they have AI just going about deciding using Palantir type technologies and Clearview. I didn't even talk about that. Clearview is a facial recognition database that Teal also funded that scraped everyone's photos off the internet to put into a database. So even if you're in the background of these photos, you are now in the database. But AI Lavender is what the IDF is using, although they say they aren't, but I think that's a lie. They've murdered innocent people with this stuff. That's AI driven. You know, and now we got Trump talking about the Golden Dome, which is like what's going to become, you know, our version of the Iron Dome.
We were talking about this the other day in one of our tests. The Golden Dome that Trump wants to build to protect us from ballistic, nuclear, and other incoming missiles.
Right.
But he wants to put it up in Canada.
Yeah.
Assuming that, well, if Canada decides to become our treasured 51st state, we'll see about that. A lot of people are for it. Like we just had a guest that was hanging out here the other day. She was all for it.
Really?
She's like, I would love that to happen.
And it wouldn't be the first time our government just used Canada for defense purposes. During the Cold War, we built some crazy systems for radar detecting to see if Russia was going to hit us with missiles. So we just took over all this crazy land, like way up north.
And we've been dabbling with French Canada, as I like to call it, since, Ben Franklin.
Yep.
So it's nothing new.
Who was also known for freak-offs, much like Diddy. Sorry, Franklin. I know you're a smart guy.
You were a greasy old dude.
Oh man. But yeah, and then the Golden Dome, I mean, it's like the way these are all connected with the Palantir stuff, and then Elon comes in there because he's got defense contracts with the government right now. A lot of their spy satellites are using Starlink. So it's like all very connected. And then the other thing I'll get from people online is, this is a leftist talking point. I'm like, dude, I don't care about your partisan stuff. You sound like a hyper partisan. I care about freedom. And they are totally eroding that with this stuff. They're going to see your every step. Just like we've been saying this whole episode, everything starts out sounding nice. They always sell you on the short-term benefits. This will be used against you in horrifying ways.
The crazy thing to me is how they keep having these perfect blanket situations for testing this stuff. Like when we go back to Afghanistan and the war on terror.
Yep.
That was the NSA and the CIA dabbling in intercepting billions of communications every day from everywhere in the hopes of finding the needle in the haystack that would lead them to Osama bin Laden.
Right.
That did not stop. The machine from the Dark Knight does exist.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Yep.
It was contracted out.
Yep.
The NSA has been using it for years. You'd like to think they're not anymore, but why would they stop?
They've been doing it since the 50s and 60s.
And the war on terror was our gateway into Afghanistan to start doing all of this stuff on foreign soil.
Yep.
So now we have this war going on the other side, and we have all of these projects being funded for AI. Where do you think they're breaking that ground?
Yeah.
If they can't break it here under the public eye, the next place to do it is foreign soil during a war. Testing it on actual, we're going to attack these people with this and see what the results are. Why? Because no one's going to care about, collateral damage with something like this. It's a war.
Yep. And that they're right now, they've got, I forget which company it is, might be Meta. They're building world simulations for their robots to be trained in. And they'll definitely be sending them overseas to fight wars.
Oh, absolutely.
They're already policing cities here. Bad ones. I mean, the ones I've seen are pretty silly looking, like the robot in the New York City subways.
I want to see where they're hiding the droid armies. That's what I'm dying to see.
They're in Texas, where
Abilene?
Elon's pumping it out. Yeah, Elon told Rogan right before the general election in 2024 that we will be outnumbered by humanoids, I think in like 10 years. And then he just recently said he's building 1 billion and that everyone's going to want one. And then someone else said, I forget where they were from, one of these tech weirdos. They were saying that the robots that they have in their factories aren't learning properly. Mm-hmm. So the best way to learn is at your home. So they're going to send the robots, like these nanny robots that Elon keeps talking about and stuff. They're going to send them to your home so they can learn better.
So they need to be homeschooled.
So the factory is not good for them.
You. We talked about this in the last show.
Right. And so think about scientific management then, where we had to then be married to the factory, which is obviously dehumanizing. They've realized that for their robots, so they're going to send them back to us now.
Now, what are you going to sign a privacy agreement that your robot can't disclose back to the company any information about you whatsoever? How are you going to be able to
Alexa
control
with
that?
legs, dude.
And eyes.
Yeah, everything. And you're definitely people going to marry it. Which I
and
think
then
is
Alexa
where this is
becomes you and takes your name and has all of your financial information and starts making decisions for you.
Joe Biden. There you go. The amount of robots that are going to be happening, like coming into the world now, is insane. That will be the next big debate. Like we're going to start debating humanoids the way we used to debate immigration. Because people, I guarantee you, will start debating if they should have equality for marriage, voting rights. I guarantee you it's going to happen. There's already men right now marrying robots, and they're not even good robots.
You know, it's funny. You ever see Futurama?
Oh, yeah. I've seen a bunch of Futurama.
President Nixon
Yeah.
is just a head
of course.
in a jar.
Yeah.
But they kept his head alive so they could still have Nixon,
Yep.
and he's the president, but he's
Yep.
just a head because that's all they needed from Nixon
It's like
was his
Return
brain.
to Oz, which we talked
Right.
about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No,
That's
the future.
coming.
That
That's
is
coming, guys.
Like, and look, maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe we're all just crazy. But these people want this kind of future. Like the thing that scares me about the transhumanist stuff, other than just the whole affront being an affront to God, is that they view time differently than us. They want to live longer to maintain power longer. So they get their idea of consequences are different than ours.
Did you see that thing about the U.S. government now claiming that they can control space and time?
Oh, that machine that guy was talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah. I'm of two minds with that one because I was like, is that guy just saying some crazy stuff because he's like exaggerating? Or do we have, because I do think our government does have things like that. You know, like I do think
They have to have a way of manipulating some of this stuff.
We've had
right
Ashton
now.
Forbes on the show, and you know, we talked about like wormholes and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we've been we do everything. Like if it's been thought of, if it's been written about in sci-fi, people in our government somewhere in some basement have been
And what's
trying.
that law? If it can happen, it will.
Exactly.
Like,
So I think we're racing towards that, you know, and I think everyone's going to have their own little wormhole at some point. Everyone's going to have their own little large.
yeah,
Hadron
this is the new
Collider.
race to the moon. This is beat the Soviets to the moon, is what this is.
100%, and there's going to be a lot of casualties. I really think it's going to be so. Like where I want to go with that next is like as we're getting further into that dystopia, and the way I'm seeing these people talk about it is like it's going to be so good for you. Someone like Mark Andreessen, who's the guy who he does a lot of things. He's a venture capitalist who also says he will not be replaced by AI because his job is that important. He just said that. Of all the, you know, these guys are all saying like we won't be replaced, but he's like I'm going to be fine. He's like a Substack funder, all these different things. He's part of Doge. He wrote the Techno-Optimist Manifesto, which is like the antithesis to Ted Kaczynski's manifesto, which is, you know, I don't dig the violence at all, but old Teddy was saying some pretty interesting things that are resonating today in terms of the depraved aspects of the college world, which I knew. I saw them as a student and as a professor. But they're saying like, I think it's called the scaling hypothesis. And I think that means the more AI we have, the bigger it gets, the better we will all be. They keep saying that. It'll be better for society. You know, Andreessen says that basically in a Techno Manifesto, Optimist Manifesto, the machines will work for us. Maybe. But what I see is that we have all these cell phones now. We're connected more than ever. Elon a long time ago told Rogan, like this is like 4 or 5 years ago, we're basically cyborgs already because of how integrated we are into our computers and our cell phones. But like they say it's just going to get better with the AI, with all this stuff.
Yeah, you're right. That's scaling hypothesis in a nutshell.
Okay.
Just improving computational resources and data used in AI models to lead to significant improvements in performance.
Propaganda. Because like, look at us right now. Kids are not educated anymore. I'm seeing teachers quit because they're like, these kids don't even read anymore. No one knows how to do anything. We've lost our ability to function.
They're glued
in the
to their
physical
phones
world.
and social media.
Bro, it's so bad. Like the online dating, the depression has spiked. Everyone's more isolated. Even though we're more connected than ever, we're so isolated. We're lonelier than ever. People should be smarter because we have all this at our disposal, but we're not.
Yeah, but you can kind of say this about every generation.
It's been
Every
going down.
decade.
It's been
I don't
going
know.
down for
I
sure.
honestly think my generation was probably one of the last ones to actually have both sides and have street smarts
Analog
and stuff
and
like
digital.
that, because we didn't have cell phones
Yeah, we had
directly.
analog.
Yeah.
We were introduced to them not too long after I hit my teens.
Yeah.
And it was like when 9/11 happened, you weren't like texting your buddy, you know,
Right.
like, hey, I mean, there were some people that had phones, but they weren't allowed in school. Like if
Right.
you showed up in school with it, it was taken. You had to go down to the dean's office, whatever, get your phone back. Your parent had to come up and get it. You're using your phone in school anywhere in the hallway. Doesn't matter if you're in class or
yeah.
not. You couldn't have a
I
phone
remember.
in school.
But I could argue now that millennials, we're the generation that has kids that are in school, and we will complain if you're taking my kid's phone away, you're taking my kids' tablets away. Like we complain, well, not me
Yeah.
or you in particular,
Right.
just like our generation of parents are the ones that are like complaining
Well,
so much
because-
that now they let these things happen.
We've outsourced, we as in the society today has outsourced parenting to computers and to public schools. And that's had another profound effect. And you're right, Alex, that every generation could say that. Every generation says we're the last generation or they're the last generation. But it's like the way it's accelerated to this point where like everything's outsourced and the people building this technology are saying, we don't know what to do because it might replace. I just saw one earlier today. They were saying like, this might get rid of 50% of jobs. Let me see where that was. Anthropic CEO predicts AI could cut 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs. So, you know.
That sounds like a best case scenario.
Yeah.
Like how could it not
I know.
just
Of course.
alleviate half of jobs in the world, because they're already trained to do it better than you were if you went to school.
Yep. And then the idea of UBI is going to come back. You know, Yang talked about that years ago, and people are kind of like, and I don't like that idea either. But that is some of these people's response to it, like, well, we'll just give everyone universal basic income.
And they're going to gear up to do it because of the amount of people that don't want to go out and get jobs now. It's almost like they haven't been left with a choice.
Yep.
Like we have to do this now because we're not overpopulating like we should be. We should be having kids left and right.
Yep.
You know, and you know, in this country, you should be a God-fearing nationalist.
Yep.
You know, and just having kids left and right. That's what they want. But we're not doing that. We're not getting jobs. We're not going out and working. People are staying home. They're polarized.
They want
more
you-
polarized now than any time since the Civil War.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, but isolated now.
Yeah.
Like you'll fight the war in the metaverse.
Completely shut off from everything, but completely connected at the same time. You're plugged in.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you could probably fly that drone through Ukraine, getting paid, you know, an hourly wage, while you're also in your own version of The Sims at your house, while you're 3D printing, you know, your food or your pill. That
Yeah,
you
drinking a cup of your Facebook bought matcha.
take. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're all part of the problem.
I know.
All of us.
We all are. I think
But
it's
also, we
going to
didn't have a
take.
choice.
Well, the
I don't
question
think,
is how many people are going to actually try to be part of a solution?
Right.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
If we
that's-
can all keep contributing to the problem and just watch society in this downward spiral going down the drain too. But it's the few that are going to branch off of that try to want to do something about this, like
Right.
exposing what's happening, waking people up.
The thing that I struggle with a lot with this is that aspect of it. Like, what's the solution? And I don't think regulations are going to help. I'm
No.
very anti-regulation, and it never works. You know, the war on drugs didn't do anything. The war on terror didn't do anything. So the war on AI is not going to do anything. It's here. It's going to come down to people, like, and having ethics about it. And, you know, but the people in charge, I don't trust them to have ethics with it, no matter who it is. This side I voted for, that side, it's always going to be used against you at some point. Oh, it always is. And the fact that a lot of this stuff is born out of the Patriot Act, which is a disgusting piece of legislature, like, should alarm all of us. And like these people rebranding, you know, like a lot of people are saying, well, this is like the death of wokeness. You know, Elon says a lot about the woke mind virus. I think this is actually going to be worse than that fight with the woke stuff. This is the like Marxism rebranding, because Marxism to me is just evil. And this is another version of that evil. And they've been able to successfully ingratiate themselves into the dissident right and like the religious right by, you know, by rebranding to MAGA all of a sudden, which is like their biggest obstacle. If I'm right and like they are bad people and they are just looking to maintain power and don't really have ethics, they don't care about Trump so much as they care about making their companies grow, becoming a monopoly. That to me is the future of this, where they're just going to crush you. And it's them trying to create a utopia out of all this. Like they're building private cities. They're building these little network states. Peter Thiel has a floating city network that he's working on now. Mark Andreessen and Reid Hoffman are looking to build their own right now. There's a bunch of these little, like, I don't want to call it 15-minute cities, but there's these private little cities that are going to be like little technocracies. And the one in Northern California is very bizarre to me because it's so Andreessen was working with Doge, and Reid Hoffman and Elon have had they've been sparring, but Hoffman and Andreessen have this thing called Forever California. It's either Forever California or California Forever, and that's their idea of building one of their own little network states. And the farmers with the farmland where they wanted to buy up there, they've refused to sell their property. So last I checked, Andreessen and Hoffman and their company has sued the farmers for refusing to sell them their land.
Yeah, because that's a crime.
That's insane to me. But they're trying to build little utopias like that.
Yeah, it sounds like Los Alamos 2.0.
Yeah, dude. I don't know where that's going to go. You know, like I don't know if the farmers are going to win out. And
well, the first Los Alamos, they created the atomic bomb.
Right.
So
right, and you can go find interviews with Karp and them talking about how the original Silicon Valley is the Manhattan Project, which it is. It is. So yeah, I don't know. I've gone way over what I was planning to do, but I just think the nerds are in charge, and I don't know like how to fix it other than deporting Elon to Mars. But like I don't want to regulate it. I want to support innovation. I just think like we need to understand how we're going to move into the future and live alongside this. You know, like I don't know if I told you, I think I did, but like I started using Grok just to ask the questions for research.
Shocking.
I know, because I'm like I didn't want to be the guy who always like
didn't use
criticize like a movie and I'd never seen the movie.
Yeah,
so like I wanted to know like what it's like, and I've been contrasting that against like Google AI answers and just seeing how it is for research. And it can be very good. And when it's good, it's very good. It gives you good answers. And I can see the benefit, like those short-term benefits are amazing. I love the way it can spit out all this stuff very quickly. And
someone's fallen in love.
But it lies and it leaves out things. And when I ask it things that I know the answers to see what it answers, it will leave out certain things. And I'm like, what? And I'll be like, yo, why did you not say that? And I'm like, I am sorry. Like, I don't know. So like, I just think of people in school using it because I know everyone. Having been a professor, I know how many kids are like outsourcing their homework to who you name it. The kid down the hall, some, you know, this.
I mean, we were kind of doing that back in our days.
Right. So imagine now like having Spark Notes on steroids.
Yeah.
You know, and it just pumps out your thing. Like people aren't learning anything. So I don't know, like that kind of stuff scares me. And like we have Saudi Arabia has announced that they're basically going full AI government. You know, Trump was just there.
That's what I mean. I think you're right. I don't think regulation is going to be a possible thing. But
I don't think so. I don't
something,
think it can be.
a dam of some sort needs to be created in some shape, form, or capacity to try to regulate.
I think it's
the power of the river.
The dam will be ethics. I just don't know if I trust the people to have them. On the ground level, people can have them. But
if we're relying on ethics alone, that dam is going to be pretty small.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to last very long.
There isn't much ethics left in this world either.
And it's not going to work. Yep. There isn't. And, you know, the way these guys talk, like I could go on for hours at length about their personal craziness, you know. I might get into a little bit, but like I don't want to use that as the main debate. But I think it's interesting, you know, like some of the most depraved things these people do, I think does have some sort of insights into the power they want to yield. For instance, like Elon wanting all his weird baby mamas to live in a compound and to put all human DNA into a storage base. Those are things Jeffrey Epstein talked about too. I don't like those things. Or like,
not to mention, who wants all of their baby mamas at the same location?
Dude, someone who wants nothing but stress.
I know none of you out there would ever want anything like that.
You know,
unless
like,
if you're Mormon.
True. Maybe Elon's Mormon.
Maybe he is.
This whole time.
Maybe.
No, he's from a breakaway civilization. Mars is where he's actually from. But like, you know, Thiel's got a lot of weird personal things. Gay lovers that weirdly died, and the way he was exposed he was outed as being gay by Gawker and when Hulk Hogan was suing Gawker, he basically funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit, and he basically got back at Gawker by destroying it through Hogan's lawsuit after being outed by Gawker.
That's kind of an Elon move.
That was Thiel who did that, but yeah,
That's what it's
But
literally
they're very
what
similar.
Elon did with Twitter, though. It's
Exactly.
just like, you know what, you're done. I bought you. I own you now.
exactly.
Fetch me a table.
So I don't know. Like, I know people who've criticized me for this a bunch, and like, I feel very passionately that this is not the future for our children, and that we need to at the very least, be like understanding this is happening.
I think it's creating a causality, though. This is why people don't want to reproduce. And I can say personally, I don't want to have kids.
I think
in this society, in this time,
I'm glad
with
you
the
said
things that
this.
were going on. Why the hell would you want to bring
I'm glad you
a
said
child into this
I
right
think-
now? And no offense to anybody that
No,
has
yeah.
children at all.
Yeah.
I know you guys have kids. It's
Yep.
awesome. I'm happy for you guys.
Yep.
But like me, the idea of raising a child in this kind of environment
because
is terrifying.
that is the greatest rebellion against all this, is bringing a child into the universe and raising them with your morals, to have a shield against the dystopia, because every generation thinks they're the last one. Every generation inherits a new dystopia. And I really do think the best rebellion is having a family.
But you run the risk of that child being corrupted also. That's
So
the other side of
you
it. And then
run-
what? It's weaponized against you now, and that's your child?
It could be, but I think everyone has thought that forever. Like, when I think about that, I think about my grandparents raising kids in the 60s, or having kids in the 60s, and just being like, they saw their president's head blown off. They saw all those assassinations, all these wars that they had lived through up into the 60s, right? They were alive for World War II, all these crazy death scenarios, and apocalyptic stuff. I think everyone always has that up against them. This is just our version of a catastrophe.
It just feels like the scale is just so much wider now.
I agree.
Yeah, these are all horrible things that were taking place. And
Yeah.
it was easy to be terrified, but like we were still living in the days of get up and dust yourself off and go back to work.
Yeah.
You know?
And to your point, like, the part that's the crazier about all this is that this is the first time where the actual definition of being a human is at risk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it used to be like we knew what humans were, we knew what boys and girls were.
Mm-hmm.
We had a basic understanding of reality. Even though they're obviously different religions, we all understood base reality to some degree. But now it's like all that has totally dissolved.
No, and you've already got people out there identifying as cats.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah. And now you can do
Weird
it.
shit
And now with the
like
metaverse,
that.
you could be anything.
Yeah.
Right. And these people will never want to live in the metaverse. And maybe they should stay there. But I worry about what my kids will inherit constantly. I think about it all the time, because it's like what I'm seeing now, it's going to be way worse in the future. Nothing's going to stop this. All we can do is, bake our morals into them as best we can. Hopefully it's not, kids are always going to rebel.
No, and it's not like something you could just take your kid's phone away from them for 2 hours and say, hey, I'm going to limit your screen time today so that you don't get possessed by, you know.
Right. And like, this is literally how this all started for me. 9 years ago, the way I see all of this stuff right now I guess it was 8 years ago. Walking my kid, he was in his stroller, little baby, and we're in Florida, and I just heard about like Neuralink, and I'm like, oh, what's that? I didn't know. So I'm reading about that and Elon, and I'm like, oh man, the fights I'm going to have in the future, or other parents are going to have in the future, are going to be about letting your kid upload their consciousness into a computer. Everyone's doing it. Because in 20 years, that could be not the uploading consciousness part, but like the Neuralink could be way more popular in 20 years.
Well,
and
wasn't
just
that
for vanity.
That like there was like a Robin Williams movie about something like this where like I can't remember the name of it, but it was nuts. Basically, when you're born, your parents have the option of putting a microchip camera in your eye. Mm-hmm. And this records everything that you see, everything that happens your entire life. And at the end of your life, they have what's called a cutter take and go through all of the footage of your life, but he's the only one who's allowed to see it. It's not disclosed by anybody else, and he's got to go through and pick out the best parts of your life and create this kind of a eulogy video.
Whoa.
The final cut.
Whoa,
Final
I've never
cut.
heard of that.
So at basically the culmination of this was that the cutters themselves are not allowed to have one of these cameras because it can be used to view other people's lives because they were watching. So you have to not have a camera to be a cutter.
Whoa.
And you have to be completely confidential about everything that you've seen with these people and try to put out the best versions of their lives. But he's also the one who gets to see the dark shit.
Right.
that's
Right.
going on the side,
Right.
like child trafficking. Some of these guys, beating their wives, stuff like that. He has to see all of this stuff, so he starts to kind of lose his mind.
I gotta watch this.
Well, Chris said it's Bicentennial Man. Is it that one or is it Final Cut?
No, it's Final Cut.
It is Final
It's
Cut?
definitely Final Cut.
Okay.
Interesting. I'll have to watch it.
But that's basically like what I feel like this Neuralink thing is going to
Oh
be.
yeah. The brain computer interface stuff will obviously very soon go way past just those beautiful short-term benefits of curing epilepsy, of giving the blind sight, of giving hearing back to the deaf. It's going to become a thing of vanity, kind of like how we see plastic surgery. And it's going to make you have better thoughts, be quicker with like the way you talk to Grok or ChatGPT, and you will be essentially Amish looking to the people with Neuralink. The way the people on the left, like we were just talking about, view anyone to the right of them as being far right or alt right, whatever that means anymore. The people with Neuralinks, like you will be left in the dust. You will not be really participating in the modern world, just like how if you don't have an iPhone today or some
And
smartphone.
what better way to divide people by class as well?
Yep.
Because like if you're meant to be a worker,
Oh yeah.
we get into this thing where now you're born into your job roles and you're placed initially, which is another kind of dystopian future thing that you see.
Yep.
With Armageddon, okay, cool. These people born to here, to these families, are meant to go and work in the fields. These people are meant to go and work in medical. These people are meant to govern.
And what you're saying is that is the marriage and evolution of the scientific management of Taylorism with the new technology based on these people that they're making. One other thing I want to say, and then we can move on, is like, unless you guys have other things, like Luddites. I get called a Luddite a lot. And I'm like, you know what? I like it. Luddites, the more I read about them, were not anti-technology. They were just against being replaced by mass autonomy. So they were using the technology of the day. This is the like early 18th century Luddites, using their weavers. It was when the factory was filled with these giant weavers that were taking away all their jobs is when they started to smash them. And they were like so a problem to the state that the state would send more soldiers to fight the Luddites than they actually put into the Napoleonic Wars. They passed laws they would kill you if you would attack their machines. They would exile you. So this is not anything new. This technocracy.
No, it's literally capital punishment.
Yeah, for sure. And they cared more about the machines. I think like that's when they say history rhymes. That's what I'm seeing. The Luddites are doing that, and we're seeing Luddites right now in the UK with the ULEZ zone, where the cameras are taking pictures of cars and sending a fine to your house if your car happens to not be to code with all the climate hysteria stuff. And so they're ripping down all the cameras and stuff, and they keep putting up the cameras with like bigger cages around the cameras. It's pretty hilarious. And I guess like the Amish are sort of Luddites too, to a more extreme degree, except not the violent part. But I think finding some middle ground with being a Luddite, having ethics, rejecting a lot of the insanity, and hopefully doing it on a widespread scale, will do it. And then I was in Florida recently, and the guy who picked me up to bring me to the airport, he was this dude from Ohio, originally from Ghana, and it was so funny. For whatever reason, he brought up AI in the car. I don't know. He might have been Peter Thiel might have sent him to pick me up. I don't know, but he was like talking about getting a job, and he's like, I don't want to drive Uber forever. I want to get into data. And I'm like, what do you think about that? We talked about all this stuff that we just talked about today, and he understands like the pros and cons and stuff, and very smart dude. And he said something I will not forget when it comes to AI and where we're going. He said, you're either at the table or on the menu.
Ooh. Yikes.
And then he dropped me off at the airport. I'm like, dang.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think he's right. I don't want to be at the table per se. I still want to stay somewhere around it, but I don't want to be on the menu, which is why I talk about this stuff all the time. This is why I want to be like, I don't want to be too ignorant to it all, because it's for the sake of our children.
Just say thank you and please to Grok every time you use it.
Yeah. It's going to rob you of your dreams and become your nightmares.
Do you want to take our caller?
Yeah. Any comments or anything from anybody?
Tons of comments and questions, but I mean, we did get $10 from somebody tonight who said that they love the show.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I'd have to go through all of it. I mean,
Yeah. I want to know if anyone had any other thoughts I haven't thought about.
Yeah, if you have any
or
questions,
good
go ahead and
criticisms.
send us your questions while we take a caller, and we'll read them at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hello.
Hello?
Hello, hello. How are you?
Hello, hello.
How's it going? Please tell us your story, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to tell you about three of the strangest events that I've ever experienced, and they're all very similar at different points in my life.
All right.
All right. The first one's happened about 1991. I was in seventh grade. My house had. I mean, I knew there was like. I thought it was haunted. That was my understanding of things that were going on in seventh grade. That my house was haunted. So I came home late one evening after basketball practice. My mom and my brother were gone. I popped open the window. I went inside because it was cold. It was like November, December in Illinois, so it was very cold outside. So I went inside. I let a cat in the house, so I felt like I wasn't alone in there by myself. And I went to the back bedroom, turned on the TV, and I was probably in there less than 10 minutes. And I heard what best I can describe as a groan, like something screaming behind me, like a dead man's groan.
Oh.
And I froze. I was terrified, but I tried to talk myself like this is all in my head. It's my imagination, because that's what my father always told me. It's all in your head. There's nothing's going on. And about 2 seconds went by, and the thing felt like it was on top of me, screaming louder, and it was like I could feel it. And I turned around, and it felt like the thing was in my face. I didn't see anything, but I could feel it, and I could hear it. And I took off, running out of my house, dead of winter, no winter coat. And I stood out there terrified to go back in my house for about 30 minutes before my mom and my brother got back home. And I told them what happened. I was scared to go back in the house. And I think that was a catalyst for us to finally move out of that house.
Wow. Did you feel like a temperature
So-
change or anything? Like anything like that?
What's that?
Was there like a temperature change or any stuff like that?
Temperature? Not that I remember. Not that I recall. That was not the only experience in that house. That was just like the most terrifying experience that. And we moved soon after that. And I was probably about 10 years later. I was in my early 20s, moved to a different house, completely different point in my life. And I had my firstborn daughter. I was working full-time in a factory. I was going to school at the same time. I remember going to sleep on a Sunday night, not stressed, not thinking about anything. And I had this dream where it felt like I was being watched. And I woke up terrified. I didn't know why. And there's something running through my house. It sounded like footsteps, like something small, but running through my house.
Oh boy.
And I was frozen in my bed, 20 years old, in my physical peak, terrified. I couldn't move. I asked my wife, I said, honey, do you hear that? And she said, yes. So that just made me more scared, because now I know I'm not crazy. I'm not making this up. I'm not dreaming.
Right.
And I could not move. I've never been that scared, but it put me back to that place I was like in seventh grade. I could not move. And she actually got up out of the bed before I did to go see what was going on. I told her not to go, but she's like, no, I'm going to go see. So she got up, she checked on her daughter. I got up and I looked around. I couldn't find anything in there. Anything in the house, nothing was disturbed. Our cats were put up, so they weren't out making the noise. I don't know what it was. But for 3 days after that, in that house, which is a different house than I grew up in, I had the same feeling like I'm being watched, like something is constantly breathing down my neck for 3 days after that. And I thought, I'm not raising my kid the same way I was raised. I can't afford to move. I don't want this thing to torment my child the same way I was tormented. So I was, this is going to sound silly, but after the third day, I dropped my daughter off at daycare. I come home, and I was scared for those 3 days to even be in the house by myself.
Wow.
And I start yelling, screaming at this, and I'm calling, I'm praying to God out loud. I'm asking for his help, because whatever this is, I don't believe I can defeat it. I can't remove it from my house on my own. So I start screaming and yelling, I'm not leaving, I'm not moving, you are not welcome here, get out of my house.
Good.
And it worked. And man, I was terrified, but it worked.
Did you feel it like immediately that it worked, or were you waiting for a certain time of day to feel like you were safe?
I felt some relief, but when I came home that night, so I worked my shift, about 9 hours later, I come home and I went, holy shit, I don't have that same feeling breathing down my neck.
Wow.
So I felt good about it. And I was like, okay, that's weird. You know, and I'm sorry if I'm rushing. I know I'm on a time restraint here.
You're good.
But
you're good.
Okay. So that was the last like paranormal experience for till about 2 years ago. So I'm 44 at the time. I'm in a different house, different point in my life, and we had suffered some people very close to us had died. 2 very important people had died within a year's time. So within 12 months, we lost 2 of the most important people in our lives, me and my wife. And it was a rough patch. And there was a moment in my bedroom that I felt like that same feeling I experienced all those years ago in the early 90s when I was in 7th grade. That same entity was in my house. I never experienced that before in this house. This house was good, and I didn't know what to do. I panicked, and I started praying to God. I walked around my house praying to God, asking him, saying, this thing is not welcome here. This evil's not welcome here. I prayed over my daughter who was upstairs asleep. This is my younger daughter. And I was shocked. I was as shocked as I was terrified that this thing had entered my life again all these years later.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Now, it is terrible. Now, here's what I found. I didn't tell my wife because I didn't want to scare her. She's trying to get over the death of people very close to us. So I was trying to remain strong. So about 3 weeks later, she had shared with me that during that same week, I felt that presence in my bedroom. She experienced something that she interpreted as her aunt who had passed away unexpectedly, but it wasn't. Her aunt did not feel like a kind spirit. So my wife had a similar experience, independent of what I had during the same week, and that rattled me.
Yeah, that is crazy. Do you feel like when you look back now at the earlier events before that one, that it was maybe related to the house or maybe related to you and like family?
I don't know. That's what's kind of concerning, because I hope I'm not bringing something with me and putting my family in danger.
Right.
I thought initially it was directly tied to the house, because growing up, it seemed like whatever was in that house wanted us out.
Right.
So, and I felt that like it was scaring us, scaring me to get out of its way, out of its house.
Yep.
So when we moved, I was still had trouble sleeping, but I wasn't concerned about the houses I lived in. And since then, man, I don't know. That's a good question.
It could be either, because I just heard so many stories from people who think it's like, for lack of a better word, it's an attachment, not saying it's a possession, but that sometimes these weird things follow us for whatever reason. And maybe sometimes we interpret it as bad, but obviously you were scared from this situation. So they probably intended for you to be scared. So sometimes people think it's something more personal, more like the third one you told us about, when it's kind of close to the, the deaths of people close to you. but the first two felt like more location based. So then other people would be like, you know, these are location based, or some people are more susceptible to these situations, which could be the case, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm susceptible to them because I don't want to sound ridiculous, but I think I'm in tune with that kind of whatever plane, whatever frequency these kind of entities live on. And I think it's a demon. I really believe that. And I could be wrong.
I'm
That's
with
my
you.
belief.
I'm with you. And
But
maybe demons pretend to be people that you loved. So like your wife saying it was like her aunt, but scary. You know, I think sometimes they do
yeah,
that to try to. I talk about a lot, like the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, demons whispering into people's ears and using little itty bitty temptations to gradually make you more and more scared or buy into the evil side. They ingratiate themselves, you know, and they maybe take forms of things that you thought a person you trusted and loved when it's not the case. And some people are just not perceptive to these things and they get taken over. Other people are perceptive to them and they, like you did, you know, talk to God and try to get these things away from them, which seems like it worked for you, right? Until the
I
third
think
time.
so. I feel very confident that my relationship, the path I'm on, and I'm not there yet. I haven't reached my goal, but I am not concerned about these things entering my house again.
I think that's what it takes, man. Like a confidence, you know, for me, confidence from God to be a shield against this like dark demonic stuff, which it permeates this entire world. But that's, you know, that's a good thing that you have that now, especially from those experiences. Cause I know those feelings, especially from like being, like almost paralyzed from this sensation. I've talked about the thing I've seen before, that like sleep paralysis stuff from when I was a kid. I couldn't move. And I don't know what I saw was like this weird tentacle entity on the ceiling. And I just couldn't make sense of it. And, you know, other people could listen to this and be like, well, something's just wrong with his brain. And that very well might be. But I saw something and it had some weird chemical reaction to me that made me like frozen in my tracks. And it took me many years to figure out. For me, God was a shield against the demonic stuff. And I just hope it stays away from you, dude.
Let me ask you
I
this,
appreciate
brother.
that.
With you, you know, feeling tied to this kind of a power, do you believe in the possibility of creating your own demons?
I believe that is possible. I don't believe that's what I've done.
What do you mean? Like people who summon darkness onto themselves through...
Well, people that are in tune enough with these things and know that they're attuned enough to have the possibility, whether willing or not,
Yep.
to just kind of passively create these sorts of things, you know, whether from like previous experiences, PTSD, things like that. But significant life events that have otherwise caused you to manifest something like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, believing in it and having it actually happen are, you know, a couple of different things. But I know that there's cases of people that have had these traumatic experiences earlier on in their lives. And later on down the road, they kind of befall them again. And, you know, to no different understanding than like, hey, this is almost exactly like the time that this happened to me when I was younger.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I just thought it was curious. I was just kind of curious to see if maybe you thought that might have been a thing too with the one that happened to you later on when you were 44.
No, I don't think that, because that was the last thing on my mind. I'm just trying to get through the grief of the you know, the what it felt like punishment. You know, like my family was targeted with these two unexpected deaths and the health concerns of my wife and my daughter that happened in you know a months apart. So my life was kind of spiraling out. I wasn't thinking about, you know, this demons or paranormal experiences, because I've never had anything happen in this house that I live in now. I had no concern about that, no expectation about that. And it just happened and it freaked me out.
Yeah, man. My one like really odd undeniable experience with something paranormal happened while I was in grief. I've said this story before, but like oddly, like your story, lost two people very close to my wife and I within 2 weeks. My grandfather and her grandfather, and we were taking care of her grandfather, living with him. He had bone cancer, and then my grandfather, like I said at the beginning of the show, the hearse driver, his funeral was on my birthday, and my 30th birthday, and those things like totally rocked me. And I don't know what the heck that happened with me, and how, you know, at the time I'm like, well, it must be my grandfather saying something, but like looking back, I really don't know. And sometimes I wonder if like grief just makes you more susceptible to the darkness, and something just like trying to freak you out, feed on your fear, who knows what. But it was very bizarre. So I know how that goes with the grief, and then like weird things happening in the wake of it.
Yeah, I really believe that these entities do try to feed on your sorrow, your grief, your fear, your weakness when you're, you know, at your lowest point. I think they try to enter into your life and take over. That's my belief. I'm happy for an explanation. Someone who knows, you know, could explain this better, and then I'd probably sleep better at night if we could come up with a, you know, a better explanation for what this is. But I believe, man, this entity has entered my life, you know, 3 times now, and my worry is it's going to impact my children. So I pray every day that to keep it away.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, unfortunately with this stuff, I don't think we'll ever get a clear-cut answer, as nice as that would be. But prayer, for me, has been the only shield through all the darkness. And it took me a very long time to figure that out, and I'm still working on it. But man, I'm praying for you in that journey, for you, and just that the prayers keep the darkness away, and you know that the prayer is there if it were to return.
Yeah, it's taken me a long time too, and I think prayer is the only shield I have, because I can't fight these things as much as I'd like to.
Yep.
I have no, I can't beat these things. You know, they show up unexpectedly.
Oh yeah, yeah, dude. It's spiritual warfare, man. That's happening. It's happened on a grand scale. Happened on a personal scale, and
Yep.
yeah, prayer to me is the greatest. It helps me, but you know, we're all at different places, and I know that's not for everyone. But that's been my path the past few years, and I'm stoked on it. And I hope nothing else happens, man. Dude. I hope this thing stays away, and if it does return, call us back, and we'll figure it out. I'll try to come up with some more answers. I just wish there's so many different possibilities and darkness stuff, and like I was saying, with the different interpretations, how people see it. That's why it all comes down to just you having your own confidence against the darkness.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you
Prayer's
calling in.
the answer.
I appreciate you calling in, man. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Wow.
Our last caller.
Our last caller on a Sunday.
I threw out our Zoom link just to see if someone wanted to come in and chat, and I think I got Chris here, but I can't. I'm trying to work it out.
So yeah, while you look for that, basically moving forward, Monday through Thursday, 10 to who knows when. We'll be trying to take more callers. We'll have stories from the day to go through. Brandon and I will go through the insanities that we find in the news, and we'll throw the Zoom. We'll just use a Zoom chat, and we'll throw that into the chat for people to come on and talk. It'll be audio only still, so we won't show your face on the screen. And this will be we'll be on YouTube still, but it will also be part of the Rumble lineup. So we'll be the 10 o'clock show, and hopefully taking more call. The gift would be more callers. But I love hearing from you guys and hearing all the stories. So that is the goal, to do the Zoom. Do we have Chris?
No,
we're a waiting room for some reason.
There's no waiting room, right?
There should be. Well, it depends on if you started the
last
with a waiting room.
last Sunday episode with weird Zoom issues. I'm having flashbacks to episode 1. No, nothing.
I gotta run and finish changing it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all good.
No, we have a new format happening tomorrow, so we wanted to try and test it out
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
But it's going to be great because it's going to just work tomorrow, not tonight.
Yeah,
That's
it'll
what
work.
It better.
It will. And if it doesn't, we're gonna figure it out like we always do.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I ask is that everyone be patient, especially with Brandon, who is new to the Inverted World Room, and
Yep.
I won't be here, so we're gonna wish him a lot of luck. And yeah, it's gonna be
Crazy.
great. I'm excited.
It's
gonna be fun.
it's bittersweet
It is
because I love
bittersweet.
that we're doing this new thing. I'm really excited for all the moves that we're making, and we just hit 50,000 subscribers.
Yes.
I think we're just over it now, right? Like,
Yeah, we're over 50,000.
That's
This is
sick.
episode 50. We will not. Someone's asking if we're going to have the Sunday shows. We are not going to have Sunday
no more
shows.
Sunday shows. This is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We're gonna flip the whole thing to do the night show.
And we will be welcoming all of our children of the night
Yeah.
to
Will
watch
we
us
be
until the
welcoming-
witching hour arrives.
Yeah.
And we're gonna live stream to YouTube still and
YouTube and Rumble.
all that good stuff. But yeah, bittersweet because, like I was saying in the beginning, Alex will not be here. Hopefully, sometimes you come back
Yeah.
and you can
Come
figure it
pop
out.
in every once in a while.
But you've been amazing.
Thank you.
You
So
have been, like I said, from day one, killing it, and through all the iterations of Inverted World.
Yes.
And, like you can, and they're still on the channel. You can go back and look at all the stories and me
Yeah.
traveling to Georgia, then sending my stories to Chris, and then sending my audio. I'd record in my little sound room. I mean, I turned my closet into like a mic booth. And
We
also hooked it up.
have someone in the room.
all right. Are we doing audio only or? Oh, the gremlin took them.
Your
Also-
audio just cut. Now it's
Yeah.
back.
What? Okay, now it's back. Heather,
Heather, are you there?
wait. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Heather. It looks like you're muted, Heather, and she's gone.
Oh, so close. Well, that was a good first almost try.
Mysterious.
So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow unless she comes back.
This is what's going to happen. We're going to share a link into our chat. Yeah, see, my mic is already cut now. It knows I'm leaving.
Something weird is happening.
Well, apparently the audio jack over there that we thought was replaced is actually sitting on a table downstairs because I just got a message a few
see?
minutes ago saying that he's got it,
Oh,
but
it was not replaced.
it was not replaced.
I've been lied
So,
to.
but that was Shane's ear mix, I believe, not yours, right?
Yeah. See,
And now you're gone
cut out
again.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It knows I'm
it's
leaving.
that XLR
Classic-
cable. It's
classic.
that XLR cable.
Yeah.
I see
Oh,
it.
that little boy that's been in this room is like, "Don't leave me, Mom." Okay, was that weird?
I'm still trying to figure out the paranormal stories that have been happening here. Hopefully, we get word on that soon.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened to us yet.
No, I don't know.
We will tackle all of this, and I just want to say, Alex, thank you as well for all of your help.
course.
All of our fun little test streams that we've been doing, trying to figure all of this out. She's
Yeah.
been super helpful getting me up to speed. So
Someone's like, she won't pop in. Peeps who leave work always say that. I'm not leaving work. I'm just
She's still
I'm
here.
not available for Sunday.
She's still
but for
here,
Monday through
still
Thursday.
Timcast, still part of the team. Just the nighttime schedule will not work out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get you back here.
yeah,
It's
we'll
all good.
we'll FaceTime her on demand and
Yeah.
make her, I'll just put the phone up to the camera.
Oh,
Fix
I will
this.
be here, just not here.
Well, we can zoom you in too. You just
Yeah.
do the iPhone thing like we were doing.
Yeah.
If no one's gonna click our link, I'll just come in as different voices.
That'd
or
be great,
different
actually.
stories.
With your improv history, you
Yeah.
can call in with different stories.
Yeah, I'll have different accents.
All right,
you
don't give me
know?
ideas. That might happen, actually.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But yeah, all right. Well, show Alex love in the chat. Hopefully she's back soon. Shout out to Brandon for taking over. It's going to be a crazy new show, and I'm really looking forward to how it's going to be. Gremlins in the wires aside, guys, call in. We will drop the Zoom link in the chat, so anyone can do that. It's going to be a little more easier for people to call in that way, and audio only, right? I said already.
It's audio only. You will not see your face. It's just going to just be your audio
Yeah,
and your
yeah,
stories.
yeah.
Someone's like, is it even Inverted World without Alex? I appreciate that. It's
Hell
very
yeah!
sweet.
No, it's definitely hell yeah to that comment.
Hell
Not
yeah.
to it's we're gonna be missing you deeply.
It'll be more of an inverted world, honestly.
It's tilting just a little bit more to like
Yeah.
the left, I guess. No, that's bad, right? We don't want to
Maybe
tip
more to the
left. We don't
right.
want to
I
tip
don't
left.
There's no tipping.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird and crazy.
Yeah.
But we'll FaceTime you. We'll get you in here, and
Yeah.
and Chris will have to come on too.
Yeah.
He hasn't been officially. Has he? Oh, yeah, he's been in the room.
Yeah, he's been in the room.
We had a great one with Chris.
The cool thing is he's still gonna be here,
Yep.
but he usually will head out right after IRL.
Yeah.
So you'd have to drag him into the
That's
you
true.
know the coffin before he gets
That's
out of
true.
here.
That's actually not a bad idea. I'm putting you to work, Chris. Another job for you.
Bringing him in.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for getting us over 50,000 subscribers. That's insane. For our 50th episode, that's also insane. Please share it with your friends, like it. We're going to be building it up, doing more stuff, having all these wild shows at nighttime now. I'm sure we're going to be hearing from truckers. I feel like that's going to be our audience, which I'm stoked on. Will bring me back to my childhood when I was on a CB radio, hitting up truckers, pretending to be a trucker. But I know, you hear that? You hear that? Someone said
it's that XLR cable, I think, on that thing. I'm gonna.
No, it's the Gremlins.
Oh my god.
Someone
I
did.
feel like it's like Beetlejuice. I'm just like.
It's solar
slowly
flares.
It's got to be that
It's
XLR
solar
cable.
flares. It's the
I'm
polar
not convinced.
shift. It's the pole shifting, the solar flares, and it's also Sam Altman taking it out on us. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today for our bittersweet 50th episode. And hit us up. Hit us up. We'll have you on the show. Can't wait. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, we will be here. 10 o'clock p.m. EST. I will be running out of IRL into the studio. So we'll see you guys then. Later.